Please give a warm Laura Dion-Jones welcome to one of three of Naperville's mayoral candidates, Ken Miller. Welcome.
You're welcome.
Shake hands.
Laura.
Very pleased to have you here. First, you know what? I got a personal question for you right off the bat. Before we get into the politics and issues of this interview, inquiring minds want to know why you spell your name with two N's, K-E-N-N.
Well, a quick story is that in the third grade, my grandmother was my teacher, but there was another Ken showed up at school, and being a little brat like I was, that how would people know the difference between the two of us? So I decided to truncate Kenneth to Ken with two N's.
Very clever.
And I thought of that
days.
because my dad's name was Glenn Miller with two N's. Glenn with
The
two
Glenn
N's.
Miller?
Yeah,
Not the Glenn.
the music man. That's great. So you had a hissy fit and you picked up an extra N, huh?
Yes,
That's
yes.
great.
Give us a...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it stuck through my life.
That's great.
That's great. That's a great story. I was wondering about it. Give us a little bit about your background.
My background is I grew up in western Illinois, in a farm town. My father was actually mayor at one time for 20 years.
Oh, so you got the background.
That's where I learned about community service, giving back to the community. I went to the University of Iowa, graduated with a pre-med degree, and went on into the medical business. I worked for Baxter Travenol for 22 years. Started my own medical company when I was in California. I merged it with one in Chicago, and we decided to make this our headquarters, and we moved back to Illinois. And we found Naperville because my daughter was going to go into the second grade. We needed to find good schools, and we knew we could find good schools in Illinois. And, discovered Naperville, which not only has a lot of good amenities, but has two great school districts.
No kidding. What are some of your most important qualifications for being mayor of Naperville?
Well, one is I have 6 years on the city council, and prior to that, 2 years on the plan commission. Prior to that, I was a Wheatland Township trustee. So I have a background in working for the city in different positions. Also, my background in the business world. I've worked for billion-dollar corporations. I formed two companies myself. I just a year ago, co-founded a new healthcare company that we provide therapy to children with autism.
I saw that.
So I have that experience, and I think that's the biggest issue that we have is most communities that listening to Tish Powell talk about Elgin, and certainly Naperville has a similar problem, that the revenues are not there like they used to be, and we have to right size what we do, and I will focus on the revenue side, which is business development.
You know something, I have a question that I was going to take it, and it's one of the last things I was going to ask you, but now that you're talking about the revenue development, what is the secret, do you think, to a successful and thriving downtown area in Naperville? And what advice would you give other surrounding communities to help them do the same?
Well, Naperville is very lucky and fortunate in a lot of areas, and one of those is our downtown. I think one of the secrets to Naperville is that we have a river that runs through it. And so 25 years ago...
Facts?
The same one that's here.
No, this is the DuPage.
Oh, the DuPage. Oh, yeah, the DuPage.
Yeah, this is the DuPage River. But 25 years ago, the city fathers realized when the shopping center opened in Aurora that they needed to do something to keep people coming downtown. And so they did away with parking, and they decided to clean up the river, and they created the Riverwalk. And so that's a great asset. The other thing is that we do have a terrific metro station in downtown, except it's on the north side. It does not go through downtown. So that's another benefit, that people can live in Naperville and work downtown Chicago, but still enjoy it. The other thing is, I think we do a very good job in promoting the downtown, and we have a lot of events. We've done a great job in cleaning up the downtown, doing unique things, and also we have
What?
a
Rib
lot of,
Fest.
Oh yeah, is it
Oh,
good?
yes. Oh, my gosh.
No kidding.
We got to go to Rib Fest this year.
Yeah, let me know when it's on.
Well, now just follow up on Rib Fest, but as far as downtown concerned, we have a good mix of restaurants and retail and services downtown. So people can go down there and they can have something to eat, they can shop, and just enjoy the activities or walk on the Riverwalk. But I will mention Rib Fest. Rib Fest is put on by the Exchange Club, and is it's the largest profit making for nonprofits to to generate revenues for them in the country for the exchange clubs. It is a huge event for 4 days over the July 4th.
No
We
kidding.
have big stars coming to
And
town
we
as
have
well.
big-time stars that come and perform.
Like?
This last year, we started with the Exchange Club, started 2 stages, two main stages. They had a small stage and a large stage, but now they bring in all kinds of talent. I couldn't give you the list, but over 4 days, they have some real headliners. REO, Speedwagon is always one of the biggest draws.
No
for example.
kidding.
Yeah. It's
Jeez
terrific.
Louise.
They will have maybe up to 300,000 people over 4 days.
Wow.
It's great.
It sounds like it. We used to go to Reichel's Rib Fest in Grand Park
Mm.
before Millennium Park.
Mhm,
Remember Mike
mhm.
Reichel? He used to have a
Mhm,
big
sure.
Rib Fest, and that was a ball. And I noticed that CBS Channel 2, Mary Kay Kleist, she must live in Naperville.
She lives in Naperville?
Because she is, when your Rib Fest is on and Chicago, Taste of Chicago is on, it's like you don't hear anything about Taste of Chicago when your Rib Fest is on. It's a Naperville Rib Fest, a Naperville Rib
Yeah.
Fest. Steve Baskerville is out there tasting ribs and everything. We need a Rib Fest here.
Right.
Can't we have a Rib Fest
Well, we
here?
had one for many years at Festival Park, and it was quite successful. But it was a good, successful run.
And you know, you're lucky you keep those big headliners coming to your Rib Fest because Chicago, they're cutting back on their budget for Taste of Chicago,
Mhm.
and they're not going to have any big name talent. And they
Yeah.
cut back on some of the other festivals like Gospel Fest, Celtic Fest, Latin Fest. The Latinos are just out of their minds because they cut that back. So what they're going to do is they're going to give each of them a stage at Chicago Fest. I mean, you could tell that was the
Yeah.
original. You know what I'm saying? Taste of
of
Chicago,
yeah.
but you're lucky that you still attract the big talent because then people.
Well, we do, but here's the thing, it's not a City of Naperville event. We have several great events. Last Fling, for example, in Labor Day in September, is put on by the JCs.
Mhm.
So all of those type of events in our runs, we have several 5Ks and walks in Naperville, and they're all put on by the nonprofits.
Interesting. Naperville's current mayor has been in office for 4 terms of 16 years,
Mhm.
and he's real popular. And would it be fair of me to ask you what you would do differently? What would it take to unseat him on your part?
Well, it's going to take a lot of hard work. We got about 10 days left. Mayor Cradle has been good for Naperville over the last 10 years when we had a lot of growth. But here's the difference is that we don't have that growth now. We're in a maintenance mode. And if you look at what's going on everywhere, including Naperville, is that the revenue is not coming in like it used to. We have 2,000 homes that are vacant, and we've lost population. The U.S. Census Bureau just reported a couple weeks ago the 2010 census, and Naperville lost population, which is hard to believe when you look at all the great amenities we have.
Yeah.
But people are moving on to a job, and so
Oh.
we need to create a business environment that will bring businesses to Naperville or help them to expand and grow. As we need to get them in the homes and buy those homes and spend their money in Naperville. So that's what I will focus on is business development, and I will leverage my experience working for billion-dollar corporations or starting companies myself. In fact, in November, I held a roundtable discussion of large businesses and small businesses, especially retail, and just to talk about what were their issues. And there are some things that came out of that or ideas that we will be implementing. So those are the type of things I think I can do with using my business experience.
Great plans. One thing that struck me was how do you feel about, because I read over all 3 of the candidates' platforms and issues, and one thing that struck me was I was curious about how you feel about the $450 monthly car allowances that are provided to some of the department heads in Naperville.
Well, that is a plan that our city manager, we have a council manager form of government, so the city council and the mayor hires 1 employee, and our city manager has a plan over the next 18 months that those will go away, because it's not their fault in that when they were hired a couple of years ago, or several years ago, that was the arrangement. It was part of their contract, if you will.
Plus
and so we will be eliminating that over the next 18 months.
Geez Louise, I wish I had a $450 car
Yeah.
allowance, don't you? You guys?
You don't?
Oh, excuse me.
Oh, never mind.
Sign me up.
Never mind.
Oh, thanks a lot. I also read where one of your opponents wants to stop the practice of paying overtime to people who work less than 40 hours in a week and eliminate counting sick days and vacation days as 8 hours worked. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think we need to make some adjustments there, yes. I agree. So it's not, the issue is working the 40 hours and not
Yeah.
working 10 hours in a particular day that you would receive overtime. It would be the full 40 hours over 40 hours per week.
I think that's only fair.
Yes.
I think a lot of us taxpayers are kind of a little bit tired of some of the entitlements that some government workers get when the rest of us have to take a major haircut in our own pay and benefits, don't you think? And we're not the only ones who should be tightening our belts.
Well, in the city of Naperville, the last 2 years, we've eliminated 150 jobs, which is 15% of our workforce.
Wow.
We've also reduced our budget $50 million over the last 2 years, and we will continue to refine our organization. So I think I agree with you, and there are ideas I have as far as being more businesslike and how we establish our work priorities.
I also read where you want to have more transparency in board meetings and commission meetings.
I do, and specifically about the Liquor Commission. Many may not know that the president of a village or the mayor of a city, maybe except for Chicago, is the Liquor Commissioner. And so this position is the Liquor Commissioner, and the mayor has the last authority in issuing a liquor license. And I think that's an area that needs to be addressed, be more transparent to the public, and have more public and council involvement.
And do you think that, because Naperville also doesn't hold regular town hall meetings for the community to address the mayor and the city council directly, would you then hold more town hall meetings?
Well, I think Naperville is fairly open with the meetings. We hold 2 public meetings a month, and then we have many workshops. And so those are open to the public. So I think we're open and transparent as far as town hall meetings. I think we need to do that on specific subject matter, and we're going to have one soon talking about our smart grid electric meter issue that's going on.
Are they televised, Mr. Miller? You had a
Yes,
great
they are
channel
televised.
17 in town, so you
Yeah.
get public access.
We,
there.
just recently, it was kind of a technical issue, but the workshops were not televised, and we started this year by televising the workshops. They're recorded, but they were not televised live, and we do that now. Yes.
Do you have another question?
You were just talking about business. You're that great corridor that you have with Lyle there. You lost like Lucent Technology and some of the things there. That's been a key loss, has it not?
Well, Lucent's still there. They employed like 4,000 people at one time, and that created the technology corridor on I-88 from Lyle on through Aurora. Of course, Naperville was a big part of that. So we still have technology. Lucent's still there with about 1,000 employees. I think the big one most recently was Navistar, that moving from Warrenville on the
To
west
Lyle,
side
that's
to
Lyle,
Lyle.
yeah.
And Naperville put in a bid for that. We didn't get it, but we were very, very supportive because there are hundreds of employees that live in Naperville. And Navistar will be bringing 1,000 people to their new facility in Lyle. And we are hopeful that a good number of those will move to Naperville.
Very hopeful. How far is it a drive? Say if you live in Naperville, you work in Lyle. Give me minutes.
It's
I'm
next
not
door.
Oh, right next
Yeah,
door?
so depending on where you're in
Borders.
Naperville, it's
What?
5
They're together.
Okay.
5 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's
Sometimes
right
you
down the
guys-
street, so.
Sometimes you guys have to enlighten me here.
And hopefully, let me add that all those people that work in Navistar, they'll go downtown Naperville to eat.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would if I lived there. Because you have a lot of the restaurants we have downtown. Rosebud, who else? Give me some
Catch
names.
35, Hugo's,
Okay.
Sullivan's, for example,
Uh-huh.
Heaven on 7.
No kidding.
Oh, yes, it is becoming now a destination like downtown Chicago.
How long did it take you to
We
get
have a
here?
very lively weekend in Naperville, actually.
Sounds like it. How long did it take you to drive here?
50 minutes,
50?
maybe
Yeah,
45.
it takes at least 45.
Depending, it can go 59 depending on what time of day it is.
Okay.
But
I'm
if
just trying to
not,
get my bearings. You know
It's
what I mean?
directly up north, Route 59.
So if somebody lives in Elgin, they want to come for some fine dining over to Naperville.
If they take
45 minutes.
355 and go, 20 to 355 or 90, you can
Okay.
do it in 37 minutes. I live in Lisle, so.
You do?
You know.
Well, Lisle is where I grew up, so I still have all the Lisle ties. So I make the trip many times, so.
He knows,
Yeah, it's right there.
Listen,
Navistar was
it's easy to
somewhat
get
Navistar was somewhat controversial for Lisle, because they gave him a lot of money, and there was a pollution issue and a school issue right next to him, so it was a somewhat controversial
They
thing.
resolved it, the school,
Yeah.
I mean, there was an issue of taxes, and they worked that out with the school district, and they worked in general, I think they worked all of things with the neighbors that had concerns.
Sure.
We gotta take Laura to Sullivan's.
Yay.
In Naperville?
Yeah.
Is it good?
Steak.
Very good.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. Lobster for you?
I don't know if they have lobster though. They probably do.
Sure.
Probably.
You're gonna catch 35 lobster.
There you go.
He's dying for some lobster. I
That's
promised
You're
him
not
one.
kidding.
Listen, I especially like that you're an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is very close to my heart because I'm a big entrepreneur. And I know how entrepreneurs are the backbone of a business community. And you were vice president of Sacramento Entrepreneurship Academy. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because maybe somebody would be interested in getting some kind of an entrepreneur academy started here.
Well, actually, if you look at my platform, it's included in there that to create a center of excellence or an entrepreneurial center where entrepreneurs and small businesses get together and leverage off each other to help develop their business or expand their business. The one in Sacramento was a group of venture capitalists and small businesses and entrepreneurs and consultants that got together to create this organization, and we would hold events where we would invite startup businesses to meet with vendors as well as capitalists, venture capitalists, because that's always the issue.
Of course.
Of getting enough money to get your business started. So I was actively involved in that organization and president at one time.
I think it's terrific. That really caught my eye. What are a few more of your goals if elected? What is really your number one campaign issue?
Well, the number one campaign issue is business development. And I am on the board of the Naperville Development Partnership, which is our economic arm for the city. I'm also on the board of the Downtown Naperville Alliance, which addresses issues in marketing in downtown. So that's where I will grab the hand of our president of Naperville Development Partnership and let's go knock on some doors. And I also will talk to 2 or 3 at least businesses a day that are already in Naperville to find out what issues they may have or ideas they may have to make sure that we are doing what we can to make sure they're successful. So that's the number one thing. There are other things too that I think the mayor should be and could be a voice for diversity and those with disabilities. With going back to the U.S. Census of 2010, the minority population has grown to 25% in Naperville. The Hispanic, African American, and the Asian populations have grown 70 to 80% in the last 10 years. However, Naperville has lost population, so it's a significant ethnic population that's moving to Naperville, and I think we need to learn from them. They're very successful. Find out how we might be able to bring them into the broader Naperville, because if you look at our council and if you look at our boards and commissions, it does not reflect our population.
I see.
And I'd like for that to happen.
I would like to know, Donald Trump says that China is America's #1 threat economically. Do you agree with his assumption?
Well, on a broader scale, maybe on a national level. As far as Naperville, I disagree.
Okay.
The Asian population in Naperville is our largest minority population, over 10%, probably growing to 15%. I think it's 13–15%. And they offer a lot. They're very successful business people, and we need to learn from them, find out how we can leverage off of them and for all of Naperville. And I have reached out to as an example, to the Asian business leaders and talking about how we might be able to put together a business alliance, so that they can work with others in Naperville to expand our business.
Here's a question for everyone. How do we maintain the quality of life we're all used to while balancing all of our budgets, city, county, state, federal, and most of all personal, so that we're not all taking a big
Is that my
hit?
question?
Ken,
Yeah.
2 ends, that was.
Can be 2 ends?
Certainly. Well, that is the big issue for Naperville is since the revenues are down, how do we continue to provide services and all the amenities that our residents expect.
And you had such an incredible growth spurt, though. It would have been hard to
We did.
maintain your spurt, you know.
Oh, we're not going to maintain it.
I know. I mean, it would have been hard for anybody because you were amongst the greatest cities in the world as far as growth and
We had tremendous
style of life
growth.
from '90 until 2005, we'll say.
We
Yeah.
did.
Oh, God, it was a garden spot of America. I must quickly say that much of the riverfront redevelopment here is done by the same company that did Naperville.
Okay.
For here in Elgin, we retooled the downtown as that same company looked to what did in Naperville a few years ago here.
I like how you say that the Office of Mayor needs to be proactive and aggressive in pursuing new businesses and job creation so people can buy those homes for sale and spend more money in Naperville or in every community across the country for that matter. That really...
That's correct, and certainly every city has a similar issue. I think for Naperville, we did not have a significant amount of industrial manufacturing.
Okay.
So what I would target is probably like regional offices, smaller offices, or those that are going to consolidate. We still have plenty of room for business offices and parts of industrial park for warehousing. So we still have plenty of room to expand.
One thing you'd like to leave our listeners with before we let you go?
Well, certainly
for me.
remind people to vote on April 5th. We have a similar issue in Naperville that maybe in the mid-teens, you know, from 15 to 20% may vote, and this is where their taxes are, where they can have a say in their local taxes.
See, I think more people should vote. Tish said the same thing about 15 to 18%, 15 to 20%. And then people who don't get out and vote, they're the ones that are the biggest complainers.
Yeah.
So I think everybody needs to get out and vote. Get your
And
voice.
Especially
get-
locally, because it
Yeah,
can be a factor
definitely.
in your life.
And you
You-
vote for Ken Miller for mayor.
If
Two
Mayor,
ends.
Mayor
Remember
of
to do that.
Naperville. Mikey.
Can I ask a real big question, even though you have no time to answer it? What can a city like Elgin or Naperville do in the case of getting new businesses to come to their city when the state isn't going to cooperate and the state is scaring the businesses out of the state?
Yeah.
Is there anything that Naperville can do to supersede what the state has mandated as far as businesses coming to the state of
Well,
Illinois?
it's going to be difficult to attract from Wisconsin or Indiana, for example, because of what's going on at the state level. So I would focus more on those in the state of Illinois that want to stay in Illinois for many reasons, to move to Naperville and take advantage of what we have, because we have the lowest property tax other than Downers Grove. We have the lowest sales tax. We have the lowest electric rates. We have #1 departments, including our library has been #1 across the country for 10 years. So we have a lot of great amenities. So everybody would want to live there. We just have to make sure that they're aware of us and possibly give them some incentive to be there.
Now, isn't it true that the downtown Naperville is all Wi-Fi hooked up? Anybody anywhere can hook up their laptop without having to plug into
We
a
do
wall?
have Wi-Fi downtown.
That's
Yes, we
cool.
do.
Yeah, I think that's a real big amenity for Naperville to have too.
And
I'll give you extra time. It's okay.
You can't give me extra
I'll
time.
give
You
you- I'll
can't
give-
stop the clock. How are you going to stop the clock?
I just did.
Okay.
I pushed the button and the clock stopped.
Okay, cool.
You want
He learned that
10
from
minutes?
Springfield.
Can you do that with my age? My aging?
No,
Stop
no,
the
that's
clock for me?
your job. You're supposed to tell us how to do that. That's
I
your
will.
job.
I'm getting around to that.
Okay.
And on that note, we'd like to thank everyone for being with us today. My gang, Jeff, Mike, and Valerie the Swan. And thanks to our very special guest, Tish Paul, candidate for Elgin City Council, and Ken Miller, the next mayor of Naperville.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to the studio to talk with us today. It's been a pleasure. And thanks to all of our loyal listeners. Tune in every Wednesday. We got some stuff up our sleeve. I can't tell you about it because we're out of time. Thanks, Casey, for making this show possible. Every day is a new beginning. Thanks for listening. I am Laura Dion-Jones. Semper Fi.